So can certain medical conditions, for example, things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and
Yeah.
diabetes, can they increase our risk of dementia? And if so, what can we do to try and prevent these medical conditions?
Okay. Right. So things like, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, all those could increase the chance of getting dementia, in particular vascular dementia,
Mm-hmm.
because of more lifestyle um, facts that you can actually control. So, things like eating well, not being overweight,
Mm-hmm.
exercising,
Mm-hmm.
keeping fit, all that, it's safeguarding you to getting, say, dementia. That's not to say, oh, you won't definitely get it,
Yeah.
but it's a big part of the jigsaw puzzle.
Mm-hmm. How is someone diagnosed with dementia? So say you think you are
Mhm.
forgetting things, you think that you might have dementia, and you go to the doctor. What is that process like?
Right. Okay. So if you think, okay, you're forgetting things, you go to the doctor. They would normally do a memory test,
Mm-hmm.
and they would take bloods just to rule out there's no other health conditions.
Mm-hmm.
If from their testing and the blood test results they feel, yes, this person could have a dementia, they will refer them to the memory clinic. And the memory clinic do a lot more memory testing,
Mm-hmm.
a scan, and you'll see the consultant, so a specialized person in that field, and then they will come to a conclusion with your, any test results, the brain scans, the memory tests, and and give a diagnosis based on symptoms you're experiencing as well.
Mm-hmm. And I can imagine as well, every single case is unique. So when you
Yeah.
go to see the doctor, it is very kind of tailored to the stage that you're at and the person that you
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's very difficult because it depends what part of the brain is actually affected, the
Yeah.
symptoms you might be getting. So everybody is different with dementia.
Yeah.
And, it's like, with other conditions, you have a test, all right, you've definitely got this. But with this, it's a case of, like a jigsaw puzzle, number of symptoms that you
Yeah.
might have, test results of scan, and then think, yes, they have got dementia, and then give them a type of dementia they do have.
Mm-hmm. And so then, say now you have been diagnosed with dementia.
Mhm.
Um, what is the treatment? What does that involve? And what are the care options?
What happens once a diagnosis has been made? We get referrals to the Alzheimer's Society.
Mm-hmm.
And can I just point out that you don't have to be diagnosed to contact Alzheimer's Society.
Yeah.
Even if you're going through the diagnosis, you can still give us a ring.
Mm-hmm.
After that is done, then it's signposting to what is available to help them. So support groups, if they're not too far gone, it could be dementia cafes that both the person with dementia and the carer can go to, the daycare centres that the person with dementia can attend, so which frees up time for the carer because, you know, I think it's very difficult for the carer
Mm.
because it's a 24/7
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah, and no, I can see from my experience working as a carer as well.
Mhm.
It really just is like it can get mentally and physically
It
exhausting.
is. It is.
Um,
It is difficult.
and I only did 12 hour. I did 12-hour shifts. I wasn't there
I
like
know.
24/7, so that was
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's it. And I think if you're a carer, it does end up being a 24/7 job,
Yeah.
and you're looking out for that person.
Mm.
It is difficult. So what we would do, like saying, we signpost it's not like we are there just a one-off. We're there for the whole journey.
Mm-hmm.
So, a person's needs might change in a year's time, in 2 years or in 6 months. And they can say, okay, say somebody becomes incontinent, you think, okay, there's an incontinence team,
Mm-hmm.
their mobility is not that good, they can't get into the bath safely. we can think then referring for independent services to have grab rails. So it's really signposting and helping the person whereabout they are in their journey with dementia.
When we normally would think of, dementia as getting worse, is there any situations where dementia might get better or improve, or does it not work like that?
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind is, if a person has a urinary tract infection, it's almost you think, oh my God, their dementia has got a lot worse. And it's due to the infection. I think one thing we have to remember, just because you've got dementia doesn't mean you can't get anything else.
Yeah.
So if that happens, going to a doctor, getting antibiotics, you probably might find that they improve because it's not that dementia's deteriorated so quickly, but it's because they've had an infection.
Okay, yeah. So you have to think of it as kind of dementia is one thing, but then other things can happen too. Okay. Yeah. And so then I'd like to move on just to a couple of questions more relevant to South Asian community. Are people from BAME communities more likely to develop dementia than those from other ethnic backgrounds?
I think with the South Asian, diabetes, stroke and heart disease is very more predominant in that community. And so that will increase your chance of vascular dementia. So that way, yes, compared to the white counterparts, all these conditions are more prominent in South Asian people.
If you don't mind me asking, vascular dementia, would you be able to go into a little bit more detail about that? It's just because you've mentioned it quite a few times.
Yeah. I think, vascular dementia, it's where you've got reduced blood flow through the blood vessels in the brain, which, could then lead to having a stroke, which could affect parts of the brain. And if you've got, death of nerve cells, then that could lead to a dementia.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question now. Why is there, do you think, a lack of awareness and understanding of dementia in BAME communities? And almost especially, I can speak from my own experience within South Asian communities, there's quite a big stigma around it.
Yeah, I think for one thing, with a lot of communities, it's like, it's because we're getting old. But like I said earlier, it's nothing about getting old. And I think the stigma is, it's almost like embarrassment. There's a stigma attached, it's very taboo because, we think, because there's no word for dementia, it's like, that person's going a bit mad.
Yeah.
And they're not going mad. It's a physical condition in the brain. So, I think that embarrassment, you feel, I don't want to tell that person or family that I've got dementia because they're embarrassed by it. But that is one thing that we're trying to do is raise that profile. There's nothing to be embarrassed about because the more people that know about it, the more we're going to be helping each other out and learning, getting an early diagnosis so we can try to live as well as we can with dementia.
Yeah, and I suppose as well, in South Asian communities, in our culture, you generally will keep your parents with you while they're elderly, won't you? So it's even more important to have that awareness of things like mental health, because not just dementia, mental health in general isn't necessarily spoken about. Unfortunately, as much as it should be. So being educated on how to support people who are going through things like that is even more important.
Yeah, and I think that education, it's the kids, the grandkids.
Yeah.
Because if they're all working, even though you might have your parents at home, if you don't really see that much of them, if you're out at work all day, then you're not going to realise what they're actually going through. Are they displaying symptoms?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's things like that. So it's education across the board. I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but we've got on the website a very short film about a woman going through dementia, and it's done in Punjabi. So, you know, it's like if you're the kids or the grandkids, just show them that.
Yeah.
You know, it's empowering. I mean, it might not be them, but they might spot problems in a neighbour, in a friend or family.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like looking out for each other.
Yeah, no, exactly. And just to finish, actually, is there anything that you'd like to mention about Alzheimer's Society and the support that you offer, and you know how people can get in contact with you and try to get your help?
I would say that if you are in doubt and if you think, hang on, you know, I'm getting a bit forgetful, or the person you are living with, go onto the website, which is alzheimers.org.uk, and if it's information that you want in Punjabi, because sometimes if you want your parents to read something in their own language, then it's there. So the website, and also you can give us a ring on 0333 150 3456, and there is interpretation translators available as well. So, you know, if in doubt, you know, do go ahead and have a look at the website and get in contact with us. At least we can, you know, put you in the direction, the correct one, and, you know, lead you to getting a diagnosis.
Yeah, and I suppose actually, you know, if you are someone who is suffering from dementia and you maybe only understand Punjabi, then it will be a lot more kind of empowering to be able to actually understand yourself, what you're going through, rather than having someone tell you, you know, and have to translate like that.
I mean, that, you know, when I go to the South Asian community, people who have been diagnosed with dementia or their carers, being able to speak their language and having a cultural understanding makes a real difference.
Yeah. It can make you feel that much more listened to, can't it, and understood.
I mean, you know, there's one example that comes to mind. I remember going to a case a couple of years ago, and the mother-in-law was actually squatting on the floor and doing a number 2.
Right.
And of course, they think, oh, because you're doing that on purpose. But then going back to India or Pakistan, that's what they would do. And that's what they regress to. So just like, you know, little things like that, you think, oh, okay, that the penny drops.
I really appreciate the time that you've taken out to answer our questions, and you've answered them absolutely amazingly. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.